Marc The Shark MMA Show.
Welcome to the Marc The Shark MMA Show. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as my Twitch channel. And if you can, check out the website as well if you want to be interviewed on a show or even help support the channel by buying a hoodie or a t-shirt. It's at www.markthesharkmmashow.com. You can even go there if you want to sign up and be on the show. And if you can't, go to RitortoFamilyBooks.com and pick up an autographed copy of my book, The Kabbalah Saga Begins, or check out the books my daughter have written. They're also available on Amazon.com. All right, everybody, sit back and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, we're back on the show, and today we got Zane back to talk about UFC 263, which takes place next Saturday, June 12th, featuring Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vittori. We also got Leon Edwards fighting Nate Diaz, Figueredo versus Brandon Moreno, and Damian Maia and Paul Gregg versus Jemiah Hill. Which one should we start with? Which one do you want to start with?
I'm actually very excited to start with Brandon Moreno.
Really?
Yeah, he's
pretty good though. But that other guy has been doing pretty good. Actually, I think this is a rematch. I'm trying to remember.
I think it might be. That's something that I think that everyone wants to see. I think that it's going to be a really exciting fight. I got a feeling that the champion is still going to take it, but Brandon Moreno, he might be able to pull an upset.
You think so?
I think so. He hasn't. There was, who else did he fight for the championship? He fought somebody else. Was it? He didn't fight. I'm forgetting now. I have to look at his record. That information I don't have, but I'm pretty sure he fought before. He champion. He KO'd. And this is going to be the rematch for it. But I'm trying to look up if he actually fought for the belt before. So I don't have his stats with me, but I think it's going to be a really exciting rematch. This is the fight I've been seeing, and even though the champion, he's awesome, I just think that Brandon has a shot at an upset.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. I mean, it's just amazing how that guy Figueroa, like the first time he won he should have won the belt, but he didn't win the belt because he didn't make weight, and then he had to beat the same guy. I think it was Benavidez, Joseph from Alpha. There's team, right?
So. I think you're right.
Yeah, I had to fight him twice because he messed up because of weight, but since then he's been a tear. So technically, I think this is his. I think it's pretty sure. I don't have the stats in front of me. Let me just check it out real quick, because I think this is his second title defense. But I'm trying to see. My computer is acting up here. It's like really acting weird today. I just want to see something.
Well, I'm taking a look also at his stats right now. And
yeah, this is the rematch. So technically, it's his third rematch. I mean, his third title defense.
Right.
But the two of them were with the same guy against Moreno. Yeah. So that should be really good because Moreno is pretty tough kid. Good jiu-jitsu, decent striking. Is very well rounded. I think he'll do well.
He fought Perez.
Yeah. That was after the belt.
Right, but he beat Joseph Benavidez for the belt.
Yeah. He fought him twice. I guess they didn't have anybody else to stand up because the first time he didn't make weight. Then he beat him. And then he did his rematch. I mean, his first title defense against Alex Perez, which he won by submission in the first round under 2 minutes. And then this guy actually went the distance with him the last time. He went all 5 rounds. And he won we won. It was actually considered a draw. So this will be it. So Moreno's got a good shot since this went to the draw. All right. So who should we talk about next? I'll let you decide that before we get to the main event. Do you want to talk about Nate Diaz?
You know what? Nate Diaz has been around for a long time. He's always a great fighter. One thing that I noticed about the Diaz brothers is, and I know for sure that you know all this too, is that they have an incredible amount of, I guess, no stopping them. They're always coming at you, always coming at you. Their cardio is outrageous. And it doesn't matter how much you hit them, they just seem to never get tired. So the amount of abuse that they can absorb and their cardio it's toughness. That is just absolute tough. So Nate Diaz doesn't look very tough. He looks kind of scrawny, but the guy is a beast. He just seems to knock people out with not very hard punches. He just keeps peppering you with that jab and that right cross and back and forth and back and forth. So he's always dangerous. Leon Edwards, he's pretty exciting though. He's young, he's strong, and
everybody's been talking about him. Or like, they've been talking about him since they've both been off the layoff, but obviously I think Nate Diaz has been a longer layoff because he only seems to go for the fights where he thinks he can make the most money. But the funny thing is, I think he's going to be the draw to this because every time if I ever go to, like before COVID when Hooters was open, and I used to go to Hooters with my buddies, normally it wouldn't be that packed. But whenever Nate Diaz fights, it's packed. So even though I like Israel and I think, he's very entertaining, I think the big draw for this is really going to be Nate Diaz. I don't know who's going to take that one. Well, he's get the slight edge to Leon only because I would say he was slightly more active. A little bit. Like I think he's been out since COVID, almost a year. Nate Diaz, I think, hasn't been in a ring in like 2 years. So I don't know.
I think it's gonna be a close match, but I got a feeling that Nate is getting a little bit older, and Leon Edwards does have the tools to. He's got a lot of power. I think he's got speed. I think he's got stamina. And I think he's got good stand-up. The only thing is this. A lot of really great fighters, just like Leon Edwards, they get put in the ring with Nate Diaz, and no one seems to be ready for never being able to take a break. The one thing that Nate Diaz is, he'll take a hard punch, he'll take a couple jabs, and he's still right there, right next to you. You can't take a break. And I don't know if Leon Edwards is going to be able to withstand that type of constant pressure. That's the one thing that Nate Diaz is great. He cuts off the ring. He doesn't mind if you take his back. He doesn't mind if you hit anywhere at all in that ring. That he's just always dangerous. It doesn't matter. He could be all cut up and he'll hit you with an elbow and he'll win the fight.
Yeah. His only weakness is his legs and his kicking skills, right? Like he throws the kick stupid, and like the truth, I think the times he's lost were mostly when people were able to land those leg kicks hard. But you're right, man. But I think I'm gonna go with Leon. I only think because he's a little bit more active, just a little bit,
It would be interesting
now since COVID.
It would be interesting to see someone actually beat. Now, when I say beat, not just win the fight, but definitively like make him give up. Not even just like, due to a cut, but I want to see him either tap and he probably wouldn't tap. He'd probably just either go unconscious or he'd let his arm.
He would go to sleep. Yeah. I mean, he's only been knocked out once now. I forget the guy's name. He was the former champion in Strike Force. He's now a commentator on Bellator. His name escapes me. I think. Oh man, I have to look it up because it's bothering me. Hold on a second. That guy I know knocked him out. He came right over from Strike Force. I gotta look this up.
He lost in 2006 to Herman Franca, and then he lost to Clay Guida.
Yeah, but that's not the guy I'm thinking of.
Joe,
Josh Thompson. That's the guy.
Josh Thompson.
Yeah, he was the former Strikeforce champion, world champion. And then he went to the UFC, beat Nate Diaz, and then after that he didn't do well. Then he went to Bellator. I think he lost to Bellator. Now he's a commentator.
Oh, so wait, so he beat Nate Diaz not in the UFC?
He beat Nate Diaz in the UFC, knocked him out, knocked his ass out, bro. no joke.
What's his name again?
Josh Thompson. I forget his fight name. Yeah, that was the one and only time that I've seen him.
Okay.
I like the way you want. And then he lost to Jorge Masvidal TKO. But no, Josh Thompson, like they have here TKO, but I remember him being like knocked like out of it. I guess he tried to come up and he was swarming with punches. And then the next big one on the card would be Damian Maia versus Bilal Mohammed, who's a beast, bro. And I know Damian Maia is getting up there, but you know what? He's like, unless the guy's like a good striker, he's kind of like Cowboy in a way, where he always comes, like he'll lose the title match, like he'll make his way up to a title fight, then he'll lose the title match, and then he works his way up. It's kind of weird, and he's done that in 2 different weight classes. Oh, actually, this is a different guy. I was thinking he was fighting that shorter, stocky guy. Yeah, this guy. Let me see what his record was. I just had it here. Hold on a second here. That's how Damian Maia is.
I'm not very familiar with Bilal Mohammed. I'm not really familiar with him, but how many fights has he actually had in the UFC? That's what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get his record. He's got 18 wins, 3 losses. And I'm just trying to see.
The last fight he fought Leon Edwards. So he fought Leon Edwards, and it was they called it an NC. So what is an NC?
I guess someone got hurt. That maybe he got eye poked. Someone got eye poked. So instead of disqualifying, they made it a no contest. That's what it was. I think it was him who got eye poked by Leon Edwards. Yeah, and then he beat Diego Lima, whose brother is the middleweight champ in Bellator. He beat Lehman Good, who's good. He's been in the UFC for a while, man.
I'm looking at that fight. I'm looking at the stats in the fight, and it looked like.
I think all his fights he's been in the UFC since 2016, so he's been around for a while.
Just looking at that particular fight. It looked like the fight was pretty even. I would have to try and recollect, seeing the fight again. I don't even remember catching it. But Leon Edwards and that guy.
He's not really a finisher now.
Leon Edwards?
No, Mohammed.
Right, but I'm saying it could have been where
he won once by TKO, and in the UFC, most of his wins seem to go to the decision. Whereas Damian Maia, if he has a lot of his wins were by submission. Well, let's play the logical angle, right? If Mohammed can keep it on his feet, and if he's better than Maia, I mean, Maia's not fantastic strike. I have to give him credit though. The striking did improve, but not like significant, like compared to other people in the UFC. And he still has that mentality the way he wants to fight for the flag of jiu-jitsu. So he just learns enough skills to put his jiu-jitsu on display. So he'll use his striking to set up the takedowns, take the guy down, take his back, and submit him. Or he uses just enough wrestling just to get it to the ground. Sometimes he even he tries to pull a half guard. So we know what's going to happen, right? If it goes to the ground, Maia's going to win. Now, whether Mohammed can keep it off the ground, that remains. That's what I think. But Maia is like 40 years old now, so we'll see. That's who I think. And then let's go to the main event. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going off memory here, Marvin is one of the few guys to ever last. Whatever, I think it was like before he was a champ, Israel was the champ. So he was the only one to last all 3 rounds for Israel. And if I'm not mistaken, I never saw it, but I'm just going off of what he said, that he actually thought he won that fight.
I heard that too. And then when I saw Marvin Vittori fight, he just seems like he seems very opposite of Israel. He's kind of a little bit, to me, he seemed a little bit slow. He doesn't throw very, very straight, and he's very muscular, and he's a tough guy, and he kind of steps forward, like not exactly springs forward. And he seems to be a tough fighter, kind of coming at you, cuts off the ring, and he swings at you, and he's just tough. And I think he wins his fights kind of that way. Israel is more of a sharpshooter. I don't really know him to be really even though he knocked out people, he just doesn't seem to be, where he's looking for the muscle shot. He is going to try and he's going to land, and it's going to land so quick, so fast, so flush that it becomes a knockout. But, Marvin seems to be where if he hits you, it's going to be like a gorilla hitting you. So I think
he's young, man. And here's a surprising thing, right? You look at Israel, he's 30. He doesn't look it. When I first saw him fight and I found out he was 30, I actually thought he was 24. I thought he was a lot younger.
24 is very young. But what I'm saying,
30.
Yeah,
actually, I think he might be 31 now. He's a lot older than he looks.
But 30 is, I think, a great, mature, experienced fighter's age. Now, you look at Marvin Vittori, I don't know how old he is, but he's probably comparable. So what I'm saying is, if Marvin comes at him straight, what you absolutely have to do with Israel Adesanya is you have to make sure that you enter quick, and you might have to take a shot or two, but you got to cut off the ring, enter quick, and you got to put him up against the cage, and you got to keep pressuring him. But if Israel feels that he has space, then you're not going to win. Now, when Israel had his fight at 205, the champion at 205, I have so much more respect for him because he was able to stand up shot for shot, and his boxing and karate skills kickboxing skills were excellent. Now, Marvin, I don't think he's at that level of having great kickboxing skills. So I honestly, unless Marvin can cut off the ring and put a lot of pressure on him and muscle him and, beat him up, kind of make it a dirty fight, then I think it's going to be a long night for Israel. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think Israel's got.
Here's what I think. If I was, sorry, my allergies are bothering me. If I was able to be the coach of Vittori, right, for Marvin, this would be my advice. My advice would be for him to take him to the ground. He's got the wrestling. And it didn't seem that Israel was able to do much off his back when he fought at heavyweight against that guy. And if you notice, I can't even think of anybody that's taken him down in his weight division. So I think, right, everybody, either, I don't know if it's an ego thing or he's just got good takedown defense. Marvin's got pretty decent wrestling. I think he should take him down. And if he can keep him down, keep him down. But if he can't keep him down, at least wear him out enough to the point where he's afraid to exchange with Marvin, right? Because he doesn't want to extend. He won't be able to kick because he'll be afraid to get taken down. So I think if I was in Marvin's corner and I was training him, that would be my strategy, right? Now, if I was Israel's corner, I would be the opposite. I would be stick and move, right? Constantly moving. This way, Marvin wouldn't be able to take him down, right? Because if you're a stationary target, the wrestler's going to take you down. They can't take you down if you're circling. So, but we don't know. Sometimes these fighters get the good instructions and then they go in there and then they let their ego go, right? Right? Like you get a guy that's a really good wrestler going against a guy that's a better striker at him, and then he just refuses wrestling. He wants to strike with the guy because he wants to prove something, right? As opposed to just fighting to win. So it all depends on who's smarter. Now, we know Marvin is obviously in shape, can take a shot, and is hungry, right? But Israel is slick, bro. He reminds me of a young spider. So we'll see. I mean, I know Israel is training with Andre Goval, 5-time world jiu-jitsu champion. That's who's his jiu-jitsu coach is. So we'll see. But he might be just doing that if he happens to go to the ground. I don't think he actually trains his wrestling because he's so good with his kickboxing.
Israel might not mind going to the ground. I'm sure he's going to want to keep it on the feet, but if, let's say, Israel finds himself in a position where he is defending, he might choose to allow himself to get taken down and then just use his jiu-jitsu skills. His jiu-jitsu skills are decent, but like you said, if he's doing a lot of intense jiu-jitsu training,
I'm just going based on what I saw when he fought that heavy.
They might have a game plan when they go to the ground and choose to make Marvin feel confident and then make a mistake, and then he slips in a submission. So that could be it. It could be something.
He is athletic. I mean, he's very athletic. I think if he were to really apply himself to jiu-jitsu, I'm sure he can get his skills on par with his.
Let's go to the prelim chick fight. So Lauren Murphy and
you pick that one, and then we'll call it a day. Because I know you like that girl. I forget which one is the one you're talking about.
No, it's what it was. There's actually I like both these girls. I'll tell you why.
I think they fought before. I think we talked about them before. This is bothering me, but I can't find the record of it.
You know what? I would have to look it up. But the thing is, I like both of these women. Number one, Joanne Calderwood. She is this, she's got this cute little accent. And then Lauren Murphy, I have a lot of respect for her because she went up against, when she was on The Ultimate Fighter, she was on the show where she went up against her coach, and her coach just said, she's like a cancer. You got to just chop it off at the limb, because she wanted to go on to the other team. She did not get along with her coach. And I had a lot of respect for her.
That was wild. I think that was Ronda Rousey, right? Was she on that episode with Ronda Rousey?
It was not Ronda Rousey. It was when the ladies had men coaches. And
Eddie Alvarez. I just don't remember.
Alvarez is right. So she didn't get along with Eddie Alvarez, and they just always been button heads. And then she goes on and she does very well. And then Joanne Calderwood, she's a likable personality, very, very sweet. So I like actually both of these women. Whoever wins, and to tell you the truth, I think it's going to be Lauren Murphy. I think Lauren Murphy is just a tougher, more aggressive, maybe harder striker. Joanne Calderwood is I think good on the ground and has some good stand up. But I think Lauren Murphy is going to take this one. Their records are actually very, very close. 14-4-0, 15-5-0. So I think it's going to be a good match.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. Stay tuned for next week. Remember, always follow the podcast every week, and the Marc The Shark live show on Twitch every Saturday at 3. All right, guys. We'll be back.
All right, guys. This week's episode is done on a live show. But if you happen to be listening to this in the podcast format, keep listening because there's more content to follow. All right, guys. See you guys next week.